I'm very excited for the talk today. So let's bring my screen. I think I'm already sharing my slides. So hello, everybody. I'm excited to be here at PyData, sharing a little bit about some of the things that it's close to my heart. So interesting thing. So when I was preparing for this talk, I wasn't too sure what I was going to talk about. I always have a lot of things to talk about. Like there are a lot of things that I can say. I always have some opinion, and I like to share the things that I learn. But I didn't sure. I wasn't sure exactly if it was a good fit. The things that I wanted to say that if it was a good fit for the audience attending the conference. Then I started from the beginning. So I went back and then I was like, okay, great. So this is a PyData conference. So it's a conference. Probably my talk should be around Python. Um, but then I thought again, I don't think I know enough Python to give a whole talk on it. Then I went to the PyData website and then I start reading about it. I start reading about the PyData conference. One of the things that it says PyData is an educational program. And I'm okay, great, education. So awesome. Then I was reading again, and then I found another word, communities. And then I found data science, and then R, and then share, ideas, learn, grow together. Interesting, because these are some of the words that have been around with me throughout my career, and that reflect not only what I've been doing, but a lot of things that you all have been doing. And I feel like the common theme here is that I see the intersection of all these words is about communities. When you think about languages and the ecosystem, for example, we need a community around it. I'm a huge believer that for a language, a project, or a product to be successful, we need to have a community around it. So, for example, for you to learn something new, it's much better to have a community learning with you where you can learn and share your knowledge, where you can grow together, where you can brainstorm ideas. It is the sense of belonging and togetherness. Then it was time to think about the title of the talk. I was listening to the Police, this very old song. I think it was like what the 80s probably. The song is called "Every Little Thing She Does Is Magic," and I was like, yeah, interesting, huh? All these words and the song. Maybe this should be the title of my talk. I love the song. I love the words in the song. But I don't think "She Does Is Magic" is like the good title for the talk. Maybe I should do something like this. Every little thing we do is magic. And then I'm like, okay, but we, who is we? We, what is the we here? So maybe that was the title. The title of my talk for today is Every Little Thing We Do with, for, by the community is magic. So my name is Gabriela de Queiroz. I'm a principal cloud advocate at Microsoft, working on the education team on AI, ML, and data science. I'm also founder of Our Ladies, AI Inclusive, member of the Our Foundation, and advisory counseling member at the NumFOCUS. But let me start by talking about my current role at Microsoft. So I want to share a little bit about my work, the things that I'm doing over there. So as I mentioned, I'm an education cloud advocate, working with students and educators across the globe. And this has a lot to do with learn, with education, with share, with grow, and of course, communities. So the mission of our team is to enable students to obtain the technical skills they want to start and progress in their career. So this is the mission that we have. This is what we are trying to achieve. That's what we are doing. So we welcome students and we provide this inclusive, accessible, and authentic environment to learn. we also guide them. We guide them in all the aspects of learners, technical skilling journey, and employability. And we connect. We connect people to global technical communities, to products, and to a diverse set of experiences. So we welcome, we guide, we connect. And then we hope that this cycle keeps going on, where the, the students that got through this process, they come again and they welcome new students, and then they guide the new students, and then they connect with the new students and the whole community. Let me talk a little bit about the things that we offer. So, as I mentioned, we are focused on students and educators. So there is a set of offerings that we have for students and educators. One of the things is what we call the Student Hub, where it's a place for you to learn and to progress your career, when there are a lot of free resources. And, I know that we all love free resources, and we all love paths and ways for us to jumpstart the career, or like even to progress on their career. And you don't need to be a student to go through this, but even though the focus of our work is on the student and educator. So on the Student Hub, you can see some of the different careers or paths that you can take, for example, data science, data analyst, and then the other piece around how to get noticed in your career or by recruiters, or like what are some tips that we can offer? How about interview? And then there is a whole set of package. There's a lot of like certifications. You can get Azure, which is a Microsoft product. You can get Azure for students. You can get the GitHub Student Develop Pack that comes with a lot of things. And one of the things that I'm very passionate about right now, that I'm going to touch on a little bit, is about code spaces. Code spaces is a new product by GitHub. And the idea is that you can go to any GitHub repository and you can start your own environment in seconds. So you can use, for example, any editor. So here I have the Visual Studio or VS Code or Jupyter or JetBrains. You can use that for your environment. So in my case, as a data scientist, I will probably be using VS Code or Jupyter Notebook. So we can work anywhere, from anywhere, and device in a browser. For example, I don't need to have my desktop. I can do everything on my phone as well. So it's very interesting to think about democratization and the power of this type of like environments, because in some countries, in some places, they don't have access to computers. All they have is like a cell phone. So they can access and do the whole environment, even using your cell phone. Some other things that you can do with CodeSpace. So as I mentioned, you can use any device. You can start your own environment very fast. You can model, train, and analyze your data. You can run Jupyter notebooks right from the browser. You can fix bugs and secure code right from an issue. So there is a lot of like integration between GitHub, everything that we do in the repo, and CodeSpace. So you don't have to leave that environment to continue to do your work. And for students, one of the main things that they announced a few weeks ago at GitHub Universe was that for students, they get 90 hours of code spaces for free every month. So you go and you sign up, you go through the whole GitHub process of like signing up as a student, and you get 90 hours of free usage every month. And every month it resets and you go again and you can use it every month. One of the things that my team has been developing is something that we call code space templates. And we have, again, two paths. We have one for students and one for teachers. So for students is that we teach you how to use CodeSpace to set up or to start your Python environment. And for teachers, we show you how you can teach Python using code spaces. So these are two templates that it's now living under or living on the GitHub education organization or umbrella. So you can find these materials over there, which is very interesting. There are some videos that guides you through the whole, what is happening on the behind the scenes on the code space. How does it work? What are the things that you can do? So there is a lot of like tutorials, either from the student's perspective or from the teacher's perspective. Another interesting thing about code space is, especially like when we are developing something as a data scientist, let's say I'm using Python, and then there is a whole setup of environment that I need to do, and it's very common for us to get into this argument where if I share something with a coworker and the coworker comes to me and say, "Hey, Gabriela, it's not working," and I'm like, "Well, it is working on my computer, so it should work." So there is this whole conflict on the environment, on the setup of the environment, making sure that we can reproduce the other things that your teammate or your colleague are doing, or the teacher with the students, like making sure that we have all the same environment. So let's see how this works. So I want to go and show you a little bit how the code space works, and hopefully this will go smoothly. So I'll go to my GitHub profile, and I think I have it open somewhere here. So let's see. All right, so if I go over here to my repo, you can see like I have some repositories over here, but I'm interested in this one that I created last night when I was preparing for this demo. So you can see that there is not much going on over here. I'm not completed. I didn't complete the README, so there is not much information. But what I want to show you is like how can you use CodeSpace within GitHub. So let me make this a little bit bigger to make sure that you all can see. Hopefully, yes. So before, the way that we are used to do is like we clone the repo in our local environment, or we fork, or we download, and then we can start working on it. Well, don't forget, we need to set up the environment, right? So there is a whole thing that we need to do, all the packages and libraries that we need to install. With code spaces, you don't have to worry about that. So, it's your workspace in the cloud. There are a few ways that you can do this. So you can see that I have a pandas, very simple pandas notebook with some functions and some things that I was interested in. I'm going back, but like I don't want to download, I don't want to fork, I don't want to clone anything. I can come over here, and then you see this tab called space. I actually have one running, but there are a few things that you can do. If you click over here, you can see that there are some examples, but I don't want to go over here. What I want to do is here. I'm open the environment, but actually I want to show you something else. Now I have a bunch of them open over here. Of course, what I'm looking for is something else. Oh, it's not this one. It's already open. Now I have a bunch of like code spaces open. That's fine. So you can create a code space on main, which is this plus sign over here. Two things that I want to show over here, and probably because I have it open, and I'm going to close because otherwise this is going to mess up my environment. What I did is I'm creating this new code space environment, and right now you can see it's setting up the remote connection. So making sure that everything that I have on my repo, it's being transferred in a way to this environment. So it's kind of like reading it, but I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm not going to my computer. Everything is going to show up over here. So all the files that I had on my repo, it gets under this interface over here. And if you don't know this interface, this is the Visual VS Code. So this is exactly how the VS Code looks like. There are a few things interesting over here, and I'm not showing the IPython notebook or the Jupyter notebook yet. One of the interesting thing is like if I have VS Code on my computer and I have, I love extensions. I love to configure my whole IDE to look like the way that I like. So there are a lot of things that I install. I change the theme, I change the colors, I add extensions. I'm a Sublimer. I used to use Sublime a lot. So all the shortcuts I know from Sublime. So I could move over to VS Code. So I don't have to learn new shortcuts. So there are a lot of things that we can do. But one interesting thing is I can turn on the sync. So whatever setup I have on my local machine, for example, I can also transfer over to my browser. So I just need to turn on the settings sync. So what I want to show you here, it's like I have my IPython or Jupyter Notebook. IPython is like I'm old school, so that's why I say all the time IPython and not Jupyter. So I opened the Jupyter Notebook, and it looks like a Jupyter that you are familiar with. The thing is, it's the color is different because of like my customization. But you can see that I have everything that you have in a Jupyter Notebook. I'm going to clear outputs of all cells so we can run this together. You can see that it's running Python. It's the same look and feel that you are used to. And then I can run my commands as we are used to do. So it's running. I'm going just to minimize this a little bit so you can see. So what I'm doing here is I'm importing the libraries that I'm interested in using, and then I'm reading a CSV from this GitHub repo. Then I just want to see how does this data frame look like. Okay, so I can see the header and all the rows. Okay, let's do some describe. Let's get the description of the data. Great, so there is some description. I can get some info. Great. What else I have over here? I can sort the values, and then I'm going to do some more thing, like I'm going to apply a function, and then I'm going to plot. I'm also going to group by and create a bar plot, and then I'm going to do a scatter plot, even though some of the things here doesn't make sense, but I just want to show you how we can do this without any setup, everything on the browser. Another interesting thing that I like in this interface is if there is any change that I do over here, it's going to show if I want to push to my GitHub repo. So if there is any change, let's suppose I want to add something here, create exploratory data analysis. I want to add something like this is for PyData global demo. Great, it's over here. And then it's going to save. And then probably it's going to say, hey, Gabriela, you did change something over here. And then I can see in the diff in the browser, what is the change that is happening? And then I can go and update and create a message, add header to the notebook. This is my message. I'm going to commit. The other thing that I love about this is it gives you some messages, which I still have over here, just to make sure that what I'm doing is correct. So I'm going to say yes. And it's going to say, okay, great. So now let's sync the changes. Let's push. And this is the other thing that I love. It's not saying push your commit. It's saying, hey, let's sync. So if you think about the words here, sync, it's easier for us to understand what this is thing that we are trying to do over here. So we are going to sync. Okay, the action will pull and push commits. Okay, great, awesome. Just for curiosity, I want to go back to my repo and see if this got updated. Oh yes, it did 35 seconds ago. So great, so awesome. So you can do all of this in your browser. There are so many other things that you can do over here that you can explore and play around and understand what is going on. I would say that if you want to just do the minimum, this is all you need to run your notebook on Code Spaces. The other thing that I was trying to show you, but for some reason wasn't coming up for me here was, I think it was this. No, it's not this. Oh, yeah. So I can't, the other way, it's like you can specify the number of cores, for example, what is the region, which branch you want to try. So like, let's say we have two branches, one that is in production, one that is in staging. You can replicate the whole staging environment, for example, in your Code Spaces. In this case, I only have one branch. I'm not doing anything very sophisticated, so 2 core is good enough, and then you can create. But this is another way of you customizing your environment. I'm going to stop this. Oh, let's do this again. So the other thing that I was looking to show you, it's here. Let's say I don't like VS Code. I like the Jupyter Notebook, the white background, and the whole UI. So you can come over here and then you can open in. There are a few options. The options that I was showing you before, which was the default, was this one. But you can open your local machine using VS Code, or you can do also like Jupyter Labs. So that's what I'm going to do now. So what it's doing now is setting up this code space. If I have I was reading the questions. I'll get to the questions a little bit later. So it's setting up my environment. It takes a little bit, but it's like setting up, making sure that everything that I need is over there. I'm going to open my notebook, which is this one over here. And again, the same look and feel as the regular Jupyter Notebook. This is the Jupyter Notebook running. So if you are more familiar, if you like this interface better, you can use your IDE that you like the most. So you can do the same things that I was doing over there. You can run all your comments. I'm going to do the head. I'm going to describe. I'm going to get some info and so on, all the other things, So this is something that I really want to show you all how to do this using code spaces. And I'm excited about this because, one, you as a user, you get 3 hours, but you as a student, you get more hours, even more hours. So you get 90 hours. So let me go back to my presentation here. Awesome. So what are the other things that we do? So we also have some programs. As a student, you can become what we call a student ambassador. And so the student ambassador is a program that provides plenty of opportunities for you to learn and lead so you can make a difference and empower those around you. I love this program because, again, it goes back to the communities. It's like you building this community, you being part of this community, you learning, you are learning together, you are growing together, you are sharing with others. There is a quote from a student in Bangladesh that I like, where they mention this. So being a student ambassador gives you the feeling of belonging. It not only helped me learn new skills, but also gain confidence. It allowed me to connect with a diverse group. I love this code because this is all about community. It's all about belonging. It's all about learning. It's all about new skills. It's all about confidence. It's all about connecting. So it's all about what? Like that we learn, we share, we create, we grow. So as a cloud advocate, we learn, we share, we create, we nurture communities, and we grow together. And with the hope that students will pay this forwards to their peers and next generations. And talking about paying it forward, I want to shift gears a little bit, but before, I just want to make sure that I have one question on the chat about if bootcamp students get free Azure hours. Yes, you get if you are a student. So make sure that you go through the link that I share with you. I'll add more links to the chat in a bit, so you can go and see what we have. But we have something called Azure for Students, where you get free credits, you get access to a lot of services that you can use. So again, shifting gears a little bit, let's talk about the paying it forwards, like the cycle that I always talk about. Like everything is a cycle. Even as a cloud advocate, it's also a cycle that we are doing. So let me talk about the two communities that I founded. One is the Our Ladies. So Our Ladies, and let me step back and talk about R. So I don't know how many people here in the audience know about R. Hopefully a lot of us or you know about R. So R is a programming language that it was created a long time ago, and it was used at first for only data analysis and by statisticians. And nowadays, R is being used by a variety of professionals, students in different areas and domains. And Our Ladies is an organization that promotes diversity in the R community via meetups, mentorship, in a friendly and safe environment. And then the other community that I found in 2019 is the AI Inclusive, where we change a little bit. I change a little bit the focus on being more language agnostic in a way, but it's more focusing AI. But there is the same idea of like increasing the representation and participation of minority groups, in this case in AI. And both of the organization is very based in communities, it's community based. For AI inclusive, we are building also this community to make AI more inclusive to everyone. And because this year was the 10th anniversary of Our Ladies, and October was when we hosted our first meetup. I want to go and talk a little bit about Our Ladies. So I'm going to focus from now on the organization and show how this organization is an example of the importance of having a community. But let me do another step back and let me talk about why and how Our Ladies was born. You can probably tell that I have an accent. I'm from Brazil. So I moved from Brazil to San Francisco 10 years ago, so in 2012. And when I got here in San Francisco, it was very interesting because I was trying to figure out what to do. I came as a student, so I was coming to do a master's. And then I found out something called Meetup. And then when I found out about this thing called Meetup, meetup.com, it was like my eyes opened. I was like, wow, there is so many things happening in this meetup.com world that I had no idea. And I joked that it was kind of like going to the Disneyland where you have so many options. You don't know which attraction you are going to see. In my case, I was like, which meetup should I join? Which meetup should I go? What should I do? Like I was totally like, what do you say, like overwhelmed by the options and completely happy with all the options that there were over here. And I started to sign up for different meetups. So I signed up to the data visualization group, for the Hadoop, for the machine learning, for the data mining, for the MySQL, so many different groups. I joined and I started going. And back then, as a student, as you know, the student life is very hard, especially when you are coming from a different country. It's very expensive. So our money, we don't have a lot of money to spend. It's like very, we just have a small budget. And then one of the things that I realized by going to the meetups that I had it was the best of the worlds because I could tackle two things at the same time. One is I was learning for free. I was meeting people. I was seeing what was going on. I was learning a lot. And the second piece, that all the meetups here, they had food. Usually they had pizza, but that was good. So I was learning for free and I had my dinner every night at the meetup. So it was the best of the worlds for me, having the opportunity to go to all these meetups. So by going at these meetups, I realized a few things. I realized that the hosts and everybody going and organizing those events, they were doing that on a volunteer base. They were doing that after work. They were not getting paid to do this type of events. And it kind of like amazed me, like that how much effort and time people were putting on this. And then I started to think, this is very cool. I'm so glad that people are doing this. And then after going to these meetups, I was like, okay, maybe it's my time. It's my time to give back, right? So it's a cycle. I'm getting all of this. I have to give back, and this is a cycle. So you get, you receive, and then you give back. You get, you receive, and then you give back. That's at least it's what I believe. So I was thinking about how can I give back. I don't know. I don't know if there is anything that I can give back. I don't know if there is any contribution that I can do. So I was thinking about that. So after thinking, I started to go through my history. What are the things that I was doing before that? And then R, yes, R was a big piece of me. Like I was learning R for a while. That was, the time there To install R, you needed to have a CD to install in your machine. Internet was kind of like not a big thing yet. All the tutorials that we had were in English, very CS, I would say, focus, very hard to understand. But I knew a little bit about R, and I was interested in learning more and getting to R more often and understand how R worked and the whole data science world work as well. So I was like, well, how can I do this? I know a little bit R. I can learn more. I can teach. I can learn. I can teach. I'm like, okay, maybe I should create something around R. But one of the things that I noticed is by going to these meetups, I was always in the corner, not feeling very welcome or in a safe environment. I was like, what about if I do something where I can create this environment that is going to be friendlier, that people will feel safe without judgment, where people can be themselves, where we can have this space where we are going to learn, share, and grow together. So that's how Our Ladies was born. Our Ladies was born in San Francisco in October in 2012. And the first meetup that we hosted was in October. There is a funny story about this, about the first event that I'm going to share. The first event was on the 31st. So I was very excited. There is, we got Google to host us in San Francisco, this very, very pretty office. We had a dinner, very fancy dinner. And then I was very excited. I'm like, okay, this looks awesome, right? I'm going to talk about art. It's going to be awesome. And I'm just going to go back a little bit here. And I'm going to do an introduction to art for beginners and pre-beginners. It's very exciting. It's awesome. I'm sure a lot of people will come. Then, by the time it was time for us to start the meetup, only 8 people showed up. And I was very upset. I was very upset. What is going on? Why we only have 8 people? And then by the end of my presentation, someone came to me and said, hey, Gabriela, do you know what? Do you know why we only have 8 people here? And I'm like, what? Like, I can't get it. And she was like, well, it's Halloween in San Francisco, and in Halloween, San Francisco, it's a big deal. So everybody's on the streets partying. You should consider yourself lucky that 8 people showed up. And I'm like, okay, so first lesson learned, never, ever again host an in-person meetup during Halloween. Anyway, fast forward to 2022, 10 years of Our Ladies. Our Ladies became global in 2016. And nowadays we are pretty much all over the world in several cities with 100,000 members in more than 60 countries. And you can see that there are a lot of chapters across the globe. And more than numbers, like numbers are good, right? Because it's a way for us to quantify the impact and to have an idea of like the impact that the organization is having globally, right? But I would say that numbers, the major impacts that I see are some other things. So I'm going to talk about some of the impacts that a lot of people don't see, and they only see the numbers, and all they care is numbers. So number one, it was to create a safe and a welcoming environment for people to learn. So I can show on the pictures, you can see there are several different meetups when we used to meet in person. Luckily, things are shifting back again. So there are a lot of like different meetups in Africa, in the US, in Asia, Middle East, where people get together to learn. And one of the things that I love about this picture, and it's very true for some cities, is like you don't need to have a computer to get together and learn art or learning anything, right? So like maybe you don't have internet, maybe you don't have computer, but you can still have this time to get together and learn and have this community surrounded you. And I love this picture because this is the reality in several cities in the world. The other thing is about empowering. It's empowering folks from all backgrounds to start, to change, or to advance careers. we have like several types of like meetups, different domains, different technologies, different methodologies, different um, tools in different languages. Here are some examples of like the meetups that were hosted throughout the years. There is one in data science, GitHub, R, Python, analytics, AI ethics, epidemiology, RStudio, and so on. The other thing is about being part of this large and supportive network where no matter where you are, probably there is a chapter or like a local community that you can be part of. But if there isn't, there is also like something that Our Ladies did, which is to connect people that are geographically isolated. This is something that we noticed, and this was before the pandemic. We noticed that some people really wanted to join Our Ladies, but they didn't have a local chapter. So Our Ladies Remote was created in a way to connect people that were isolated, or that the time of the meetups that were being hosted were not compatible with with their times and so on. The other thing that is very interesting is like by joining this community or other communities, you connect with different communities. So we see Our Ladies and Our Ladies, it's one example, but like how we have this synergy with different communities, how we work with different communities, how we do events with different communities. So here are some of the examples, including PyData, where we do this cross collaboration. Again, talking about global is it's an opportunity for you to connect with people from all over the world. One very fun thing that happens in every conference is all the Our Ladies, we get together to take a picture, and you can see how the picture, or the number of people in the picture has changed throughout the years. Where before it was, it could fit like in 2018, you could fit in like in a room, and it was easy to take a picture. And then in 2020, it was like there is no way that we can take the picture of like everybody together. Like there is no place or room or space. You can see people all over in the hallway over here trying to wave. So this is very cool. Like you connect with people from all over the world. The other things around creating allies, sponsorship, mentorship, and lifelong connections. How many people we know, and I know personally, that met through Our Ladies and became friends, became co-workers, became kind of like a family. Um, and one of the questions that people ask, again, going back to the importance of like communities, is they ask, how do you see Our Ladies, how do you see these organizations changing the landscape? In this case, how do you see how do you see the organization changing the landscape of the R project? And again, this is very hard to show. It's very hard to quantify what is the impact. I always like to say, look at the pictures. The pictures can tell you more than words and numbers. Just look at the pictures. Just go to the conferences and you'll see the impact, how Our Ladies changed the R ecosystem, or the R. The R project. But one of the ways that this showed up was there was a community survey that was the R consortium ran, where there were some questions, and one of the questions was, what is the best aspect of working with R? And you can see here the community was the one that people mentioned the most, and this was a free-form questionnaire for this question. And you can see the community is like the heart of working with art, which is very, like, there is nothing that I can say that is more impactful than having a survey where you have community in the heart of the response. And then just to finalize here, it's no matter what we do, community is like this missing piece. When you look back to your career, there is always some aspect of the community, even though you don't realize that there is a community close to it. It can be like the community that your co-workers, or something that you do at work, or it can be like through an organization, or it can be through your work, as for example in my case as a cloud advocate. So community is like this missing piece that I think it's always missing in all projects, everything that we do, and it's the heart and it's the essential piece, that it's the linking piece that connects all the parts. So that's all I want to share with you today. I want to thank you again for the invitation, for your time. And I would love, that's my favorite part, I would love to open for questions. Any questions that you have, I'm here for you now.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, we've gotten a couple comments throughout the presentation, some questions. If you do have a question, you can just post it in the YouTube and we'll grab it and pull it up. But yeah, please, let's have any questions you might have.
Yeah, while people are writing questions, I want to mention Codespaces. Again, it's free. You should have the same button that I was showing on my GitHub in your GitHub. Let me go back to my GitHub again. In your GitHub repo, so you can open any repo that you have. You should have this button over here. I have to stop all of this because I open a lot of like different machines. But the other piece is like you have control. Like let's say as a student you have 90 hours and you want to make sure that you are not in the limit. There is a way in your setting that you can see how much you have used so far. So there is all about the control, how much you are using. Again, for general audience is 60 hours, for students is 90 hours. So this is pretty cool. And if anyone has any questions around this, I would love to, you can tweet or ask me on Twitter or any other vehicle question about it. So let's see, there is one question and I'm going to stop let me go back. I'm going to stop
the first one's from Emily.
Yes, so I can see the questions. All right. So Emily is asking, how would you tell Codespace what Python version, package version you want for your project? That's a great question, Emily. If you can have something like requirements.txt. You can have that, and that will mimic the environment that you have. So make sure that everybody has the same environment. So that would be one way where you can have this file that tells you, this is all the requirements that we need. The thing that I was showing here, because it's very simple, I didn't have to install any pandas or matplotlib. It was already installed beforehand because some of the main used libraries, they come with this virtual environment. But if there is any specific packages or versions that you want, you can specify in your project. Kind of like the same way that you would do without Codespaces, like when someone go and clone, and then you have a requirement file that you have to install all the prerequisites to run, that would work kind of like the same way. Oh, we have, yes, Rishama. How do you think community has evolved during the pandemic? And do you have any suggestions? Yeah, it's been very hard for communities in general to survive and thrive during the pandemic. Um, AI Inclusive was when I launched AI Inclusive was right before the pandemic. And my idea was to do like the same thing as in person and all of that. And then we had to shift because we couldn't meet more in person anymore. So I had to think about ways to keep reaching the community, keep creating impacts, and adjust to the new reality. So instead of like hosting in person, we couldn't anymore. And there was also like a saturation of online events happening. So there are two things that I feel like it worked. One of them was to partner with different organizations, different communities. Instead of doing your own, partner with others, because there is every day we used to have one or two or three events happening. So if you partner, you are expanding a community. You are not overflowing everybody with all these video and meetings and meetups online, and you can reach more people as well. So this is one of the things. The other piece was around, is there anything that we can do that is going to reach the global community? So we shift to offer like scholarship through boot camps that were going on online. So anyone could take those online courses or classes in no matter where you were. So those were the things that we did. So a suggestion that worked for us, and I feel like we can replicate this in other communities. I don't know like how things will change when we come back, and it's just like, it's like a cycle. It's like going back and then we go back in person, but not everybody is comfortable. So I still think that we are going to be evolving as we go. Hey, Dennis. Yes. So, any advice to meetup organizers and hosts to make the events more welcoming to everyone? I would say it starts from the beginning. Like, who are the people hosting or organizing? Do you have a set of like diverse people behind it? So that's the first thing, because it's the front door. It's like, who is organizing, who is hosting. So I would say that's the first step, making sure that we have a diverse set of organizers or hosts behind it. uh, the other piece is like having a code of conduct for all the meetups and events and conferences and any interaction that we have. We read the code of conduct. We make sure that everybody's aware of the code of conduct. So this is the same this the first thing that we do as we start an event. We say, hey, we have this code of conduct. Let me read um, a little bit for you so you are aware, and you also enforce this code of conduct. If there is any issue, there is an enforcement and a channel that you can reach. So those are some advices that I can offer from the top of my head. Oh yeah, so great question, Thiago. So how have you gone about training and supporting other leaders across the globe as part of Our Ladies so they could run their chapters as well? Um, so we had, first of all, we had a Slack channel where all the organizers would get into, so they all have contact and they could learn from each other from the Slack channel. And then we had a guide where kind of like best practices on how to run an event, what are some of the materials that you can use. Can you reuse other materials from other chapters? If you have any questions, you have this whole network of like other organizers that are there that you can ask questions. So that's what we did. So we did the Slack with all the organizers. We had a guide for all the chapter leaders or for anyone wanting to organize a chapter. Great. So G Villa is asking advice on how to become an ambassador. Can you become an ambassador for a bootcamp institution? They have a very diverse population. They don't have .edu emails. Yes, you can. My suggestion would be go through first through the GitHub, because GitHub has a good process of like validating if you are a student in a university or an institution, even though you don't have an edu email. So go through GitHub first, go through the validation, and then you can go to Azure for students to sign up. That would be my advice. The other thing is like try to keep in touch with any ambassador that you know, or let me see if I can find there is a website where you can find all the ambassadors, and if there is any ambassador here, let me just share on the chat real quick. So there is this place over here where you can find all the student ambassadors. You can also get in touch with them to see if they have any tips or anything that they can share on how to become an ambassador. Or you can reach out to me and I can help you on how to navigate this path.
That might be it for the questions. Those are good questions. So thank you for adding those. Maybe I'll just add on this little comment here. Hopefully Sven doesn't mind posting it. But thank you so much for joining us as a keynote. This really has been great.